You're listening to the Firewater Review, a podcast dedicated to whiskey reviews. On today's show, we will be sharing our thoughts on two different pours of Blanton's, one from 1991 and one from earlier this year, January of 2017. Today we are joined by Jeremy Schell. I am your host, Seth Brown. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Aaron Cave. How's it going, gents?
Great.
It's good. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. So as I mentioned, we have Mr. Jeremy Schell with us today. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah. This is good.
Well, thanks for the samples.
Yes.
Always good to have bourbon with friends.
Yes.
Thanks for making this show today possible.
Absolutely.
So yeah, as I mentioned, we are drinking some Blantons today. We have one that was dumped on, March 5th of 1991, and that is barrel 425 from Warehouse H, of course. Rick number 45. The interesting thing is we also have another Blanton's that was dumped in January of this year, January 26th, and that was barrel 676 and from Warehouse H and Rick number 44. So what is that, 26 years apart?
Yeah, about that.
And one Rick away from each other. So very cool. Thanks for the samples, dude.
Absolutely. Blanton's is probably, it's one of my favorite, but it's actually the first bourbon I ever had.
Really?
So it's near and dear to me. It was a gift from a friend of mine gave me a gift of Blanton's. I had no idea what it was, but it was a really, really cool bottle in a bag. And I thought this has got to be something nice. I drank it and I thought this is I was hooked at that point because I was a vodka drinker before that. So Blanton's is what turned my head and got me drinking in the bourbon.
Nice.
Love it. I love it. Well, that was actually going to be one of my questions, was how you got into it. So from that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And you have already shared how you got into it, but if there's anything else you want to add to it, then go for it.
I'll keep it simple. I'm here in the bourbon mecca right here in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been here for about 27 years. Moved from D.C. originally, but besides getting converted over to bourbon at a young age, I've been fortunate enough to work in the spirits industry for the last about 15 years, and I had a chance to work on a number of different bourbons. But Blanton's is still one of my favorites.
Cool. Yeah, that's not a bad gift, man. Especially for your first bourbon. It's not a bad gift.
I had no idea what it was, but I remember looking at the bottle and thinking just how cool the bottle shape was, and the horse on top of the bottle. It just looked impressive to me. And being a vodka drinker, which is vodka, the bottles are pretty, usually the labels are neat, but it's clear juice, so there's not a whole lot there to it. So this really kind of popped for me. I thought this was something special. I guess it was. I was given to me, and with the other part of this is the gift was given to me in 1992. So this was pretty close to the one that we're be trying tonight. It's pretty close to one of the first ones I ever had.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So that was not long after you moved to Kentucky then, I guess, was it?
Yeah, I actually moved to Kentucky in 1990. So I was here for about a year and a half before I got converted.
That's not too bad, though.
Not too bad, but actually, when I moved to Kentucky in 90, I was still 20 years old, so technically wasn't supposed to be drinking anything yet.
Sure. So you had to wait that legal year there.
That legal year until the latter part of 1991 before I could actually have my first taste of alcohol.
I'm sure you had none before then.
No, nothing. I was thinking, actually, ironically, I was a good old Mormon boy.
Oh, yeah?
So, exactly.
I won't question you then.
That's a story for another day.
We'll have to have you back on, apparently. Well, good deal. Well, thanks again for the samples. You've made this show possible today. Per usual, Aaron, do you have any background to give us on this?
Well, I do. I'm not going to talk long about it because I'm pretty sure about 99% of our current fan base that listens knows everything they need to know about Blanton's, but it is from Buffalo Trace. It is their mash bill number 2, which is their higher rye mash bill, which they don't disclose, but it's thought to be somewhere about 15% rye.
And is their best mash bill?
Yes, it is. It is their best mash bill. It is stilled. Still proof is 140 proof. Then the entry barrel proof is 125. As everyone knows, all Blantons are aged in warehouse age, which is a warehouse with metal walls, not brick, which is kind of interesting. And it was actually right after Prohibition. Colonel Blanton himself had this warehouse built because they were, making all kinds of bourbon and running out of room, and so they tried to put up a warehouse as fast as possible. Instead of using brick, they used metal for the walls. And many years later, come to find out, Colonel Blanton himself thought this was the best warehouse to age bourbon in, just because there was more heat and cold, with the winter changing. It is char number 4. They do chill filter it, and the ones we are trying here tonight are all bottled at 93 proof. I don't know if you guys have any insight on it. They never really give an age statement. I've always thought it's somewhere between 7 and 9 years. Any thoughts?
I've always guessed it to be between 6 and 8.
Okay, pretty close.
Yeah, I'd probably go with that 6 to 8 range.
6
and
to 8.
they get great color, but at the same time, I think there's still a hint of, in my opinion, you get that sweet hint to it. So I always feel like that's a little bit younger. So in that 6 to 7 year range.
Okay, so we'll say 6 to 8, and it states on the site, on the Blanton site, that they're all taken from the center cut of warehouse age. I don't know if every single one is, but that'd be hard to do to keep it consistent with coming out with the product as much as they do. But I think everyone knows the kind of history behind how Colonel Blanton used to go out to the warehouse age and pick these barrels for friends and family and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how the single barrel came along, because Elmer T. Lee was the one that first started this single barrel in blends in 1984, and just kind of honored Colonel Blanton for that. So, you guys got anything else?
No, I think it's kind of cool because the 91. So if this was, let's just say it was 7 years old, when would it have been distilled? 91 minus 7
it would have been 84.
84. Yeah. 84. So yeah, that would have been back in Elmer's day. And I mean, I think that's really cool. I mean, and we'll get into it when we get into the notes, of course, but there is a stark difference between these two.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I think having tasted older Elmer T. Lee from the early 90s, I can see where there are similarities between the two. And so you kind of get a feel for what Elmer's palate might have been, what his likes and dislikes might have been, which I thought was really neat when I was trying this last night. You know, it kind of took me back to that Elmer T. Lee from 92. And I thought, okay, I can get a feel for what Elmer's palate might have been like. And I really got into that. It really kind of brought a smile to my face, I guess, if nothing else.
That's a great point, because I think, you know, whatever you think of the Elmer T. Lee, but this is as far as the brand, you're drinking a piece of history with this, because this really was made, you know, with his hands back, you know, in the late 80s, and then dumped in the early 90s. So it's hard to find, and it's certainly something different. So I think it kind of gives some insight into how he helped build the brands over those years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And the older Elmer T. Lee too. I mean, the differences between this Blanton's from 91 and the one from earlier this year is, I mean, in my opinion, the Elmer T. Lee that I had from the early 90s is even more different than the Elmer T. Lee today. I don't know if either of y'all have had Elmer from back then, but it was it's even more different than what these two Blantons are.
Really? Wow.
Evan Haskell was the one that sent me a sample from one of his bottles, and I think we may have tried it on an episode of the Bourbon Show. I can't remember now, but it was. I mean, it almost blew me away how different it was from today's Elmer T. Lee. Now, I still like today's Elmer T. Lee. Don't get me wrong, but it was just that much different. So, speaking of bottles from back in the day, what were some of the packaging differences from some of these bottles? You mentioned you had some older ones too that you've recently found.
This is, I think people know what the bottle looks like. The Blantons, it's the 750 looks like a shot put. It's more of a rounded with some squared off edges to keep for it, and it's got the distinct capsule with the rider on top. And they've always kept that, and that's been the look of the bottle of the glass from day one. But one of the challenges with that bottle and that bottle presentation is when they ship it in a case, they're more prone to breakage, and you can't stack them very well if you were going to put multiples inside of a case. So they had to do something special with the packaging to go with this. So there's always, if you look at Blantons, even today, they're always put in their own standalone box. So every bottle goes secured in a box. The neck is secured, the capsule area is secured, and then it's shipped that way inside the case. Well, that box is certainly, the bottle itself hasn't really evolved much over the years, but the box itself definitely has changed from the original incarnations of the product to today. And I've got a couple of the mid 80s and then the 84 as well as this 91 box that it came in, and it's a presentation piece. And for the people that are listening to this, I'm going to post a picture on Instagram after this airs. But the box for the 91, it's almost 1.5 times the current box size. So if you're familiar with the box that a 750 comes in, this is just close to double that size.
Wow!
But it's a hard, it's like a cardboard box, but it's covered in more of a blue, almost vinyl type material. But it certainly feels like a cardboard stock. But then it's got a cut on it from the lid to the box itself. When you take the lid off, both of it has more of a trapezoid cut. So if you stand it up on its bottom, the top is narrower than the bottom. So the base is real wide, that it goes more of a tapers to the top. But where the bottle sits on the inside is a purple satin mat that it sits on. So it really kind of shapes and caresses and cradles the bottle itself in this purple satin material. So the bottle has this very, I don't know what to call it, high-end look, but it certainly has a premium look to it. And the packaging definitely carries that through in the box, because when you look inside the box, it really feels like a premium bourbon, which if you think about that, and then of course all the lettering is a gold leaf Blanton's lettering on the box itself too. So it definitely has a very premium feel. Each year that I've got, the interior lining does change for each of the years. So it wasn't purple, and every year this one just happened to be that color for 91. They may have done it a couple different years that way. But if you think about it, the bourbon category was not doing that well at that period of time, and so still having a premium bourbon, it was not just about the juice. It was about the glass. It was about the presentation. It was something to sit on the bar and sit on the shelf. So they certainly carried it through in their packaging.
So it was almost like they were kind of, because the 70s and even to a degree the early 80s, they were big on the decanters. And so it was almost like they wanted something just as nice as a decanter, or nicer in this case, but not a decanter.
Exactly. I think definitely. I think this was being in the early 90s. It was sort of getting away from that decanter era and moving on, but still the presentation was important. So it's had a real premium feel to it.
Now, did the older bottles, have they always had the horse on the cork? Did they always have the letters, even back in the early 80s and 90s?
Well, I will tell you here in a second. I've got to go down. Unfortunately, this cork broke.
Oh, I remember seeing that video on Instagram.
Yeah, it was a tragic cork accident. This does not have any letter on the horse. So that's be an interesting little trivia piece to find out when they started doing that.
I believe it was 1999.
Really?
I'm not 100%, but I think it was pretty close to there. I can tell you actually here in a second.
Aaron, do you have all the corks?
No, I don't have all the core. Well, I might actually. I'd have to go through and look at all the ones I don't have them all set up.
Go dig
and
for the
like
crawl
nice.
space.
Yeah, I definitely would have to do that.
I wonder if they stole a page from that other bourbon brand that uses colored wax on their neck, and they started using different colored wax to sell more bottles.
Hey, it worked.
Absolutely, it worked. Hey, whatever it takes.
I have some older bottles of that.
Worst thing is you got more good Blantons to drink.
There you go.
Yeah, so in 1999, the collector's edition, the set of 8 different stoppers, was produced. So 1999 is when they started it.
Interesting. So is that when because if you line them all up, it gives one full, I guess you call them a stride of a horse. It gives one full stride of a horse. So did they also add that into, or did they just add the lettering in?
I imagine it's everything.
Interesting.
So yeah, it says right here, the set features the horse and the jockey at different strides and positions throughout the stage of the race.
Hey, we all learned something here.
That's right.
So yeah.
And if you've got one of the staves, they certainly do look good lined up across the stave.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of those.
Yeah, I don't have one of those, but they certainly do look sharp.
Well, all right. Do either of y'all have anything else to add?
I don't.
I think it's time to try these.
I think you're right.
I think so too.
So what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back and share our notes when we return. Welcome back, everybody. In the break, we have been sipping on some Blantons and talking about bourbon. Go figure. Per the usual fashion, we will start off with Aaron first, and we're going to start off with the Blantons from 1991, and then we'll run through. Aaron will do it. Jeremy will share his review, then I will, and then we'll go to the one dumped in January of 2017, earlier this year, and go through the same order. So, Aaron, take it away.
All right. So this 1991 just is totally different from anything you'd have today. Noticing it, the first thing I get is I don't know if you guys have never tried anything from the 90s or 80s, but it has this kind of this old funky must smell to it. It's for me on the nose. There's a lot of sweet corn and honey, a little bit of maple syrup. I definitely pick up some citrus in there, some apricots, maybe a little orange peel. The rye is kind of light, but it's there. And also the oak is kind of light, but it's got a little bit of tobacco and mint. And on the palate, it's kind of a lighter palate. It's honey, a little bit of toffee. It's got that old butterscotch note to it. Just a little bit of cinnamon and pepper floating around. For me, what really stands out is it's almost like a bubblegum flavor. And then a little bit of orange, get some baked apples, oak and leather. And on the finish, it's medium. It's that sweet corn still there, cinnamon, a little bit of toasted oak, and it's kind of dry on the finish for me. And just get little hints of raisins at the end. But for me, I really like this pour. I love old bourbons, and I get this to 92.
Excellent. That's a good score, man. I wasn't quite expecting that one.
That's good bourbon.
Good score for good bourbon.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So, Jeremy, what about you, man?
I got a lot of. I'm going to agree with a lot of what Aaron said. On the nose, it's definitely got that musky. If you think of like a masculine type smell, I don't get the old dusty, musty scent you might get from some other in the older line. But this it just definitely has a very musky, soft musky scent to it, which I really like in the bourbon. Now, on the taste, the one thing I did get out of it, I got quite a bit of pepper, and I got a little bit of clove that lingered long, because it's a very, for being 93 proof, it's very long. In my opinion, it's very long finish. But what I like about the dry finish is it sort of sets you up to have another one, another taste from the glass, which I really like that as well. So this is the other thing I was going to say is it has a more oily, viscous sort of mouthfeel to it that I don't get on some of the newer bourbons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's good. It's delicious. I would probably give it. I'm gonna have to go with Aaron. I think this is definitely in the low 90s score, but it's good. I'm gonna go with 91 for the year.
There you go.
Love it. I love it. 90. What'd you say, Aaron? You got a 92?
92.
92 and a 91. Oh no, pressure's on. This is the guy that gave Blanton's an 87, I think it was. Anyway, yeah, the nose. I really agree with you guys. It's sweet, but it does have that musty aroma to it. I was getting a lot of pancake syrup up front. Some sweeter vanilla notes, but kind of light. Not a lot of oak. That too is light. But Aaron, you mentioned the bubblegum flavor on the palate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a little bit of bubblegum here on the nose. And when you combine that with the mustiness, I'm sitting here drinking this last night, and I had flashbacks of my childhood buying Old Topps baseball card packages. When they had they gave you the bubblegum stick in the package, and the gum was always terrible. It was brittle and it lost its flavor within 5 seconds. But it just that smell of opening up those packages in combination with the baseball cards and the wax packaging and that gum, that's what it really brought back for me. It was kind of cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I was getting that bubble gum on the nose. So it was picking up some really light citrus here too, and some subtle brown sugar notes. I love the nose. Like I said, just bringing back that memory was really cool for me. And the palate, it's creamy. It's really creamy. I love it. It reminds me a lot of today's Blanton's Gold. I mean, that Blanton's Gold is real buttery. Reminds me a lot of that. Has a really nice creamy mouthfeel with it. Really light leather, some sugar, and the oak is light for me again here, and getting some of that bubblegum flavor here as well. It's super unique. I loved this a lot. There's not a ton of spice to it, but the spice that I did get was very cinnamon. The finish, I would agree with both of you. I think it's got kind of a medium finish. I wish it was a little bit longer, but it's still packing quite a bit of flavor. It's again very sweet with those sugar and some syrup. Oak again is super light leather. Some cinnamon here, providing a little spice, and it does get dry on the end. For it to be as creamy as it was on the mouthfeel, it does dry out a little bit. But like I said, Jeremy, it just kind of makes you want to go back to it pretty quick.
You brought up the baseball card reference, which I love, and it's a story for another time. But talking about the leather, playing baseball, if you're sitting out there and you're bored, you got your glove, and you start chewing on one of the strings.
Yep.
On your glove, that's kind of the taste.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of that.
And that's having played baseball pretty much my entire life up until the point I had kids, I always restrung my own gloves, and to get those knots tight, you'd hold one at the mouth and pull with the other, and it just always, as a kid standing in the outfield before the outfield got a lot of action. As you got older, you're sitting there chewing on your glove strings. And it always that I love the taste of leather, the aroma of leather, and even tobacco. Because not so much nowadays, but back in our day, a lot of people chewed, a lot of people dipped, and just always, even if you didn't do it yourself, you were always around it. So you always had that smell, and it just, I don't know, bourbon and baseball, it's America. It's America,
That's
baby.
America.
It's America.
America.
But I'm on the lower end of you guys, but I'm still giving this a 90.
All right.
Okay.
That is one solid score because that gives us a 91. So Jeremy nailed it.
It's a good year.
That's right. And all I got to say is Elmer knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and I mentioned it I before we went into the break. It's really cool to me to be able to try this and to have had the opportunity to try some early 90s Elmer T. Lee, and they're completely different bourbons. Even this one from 92 and the Elmer from or this Blanton's from 91 and the Elmer from 92, but there are some big similarities between them too. Neither one of them are just over the top, oaked or spicy or anything like that. They have that nice soft creaminess to them. And it's just, it's really cool to me to know that he had a hand in both of those bourbons and just to see the similarities and the differences between them. It's really cool.
He did good work.
Yes, he did. Most definitely. All right. Well, you guys ready to do another Blanton's from earlier this year?
Let's see what Harlan's bringing to the table.
No pressure, Harlan, at all. So yeah, as I mentioned, this one was dumped on January 26, 2017. It's barrel number 676, Warehouse H, of course, Rick number 44, and again 93 proof. Aaron, you're up.
All right, so right off the bat, the nose is just completely different. For me, I get a lot of brown sugar, vanilla, some light cherries, some lemon zest, a little bit of green apples. It's got that nice rye spice to it. I catch some cloves, oak, and I definitely get some leather on this one. The palate, for me, right off the bat, it's a nice rye spice with some cinnamon and some black pepper. And then right after that's that brown sugar, caramel, a little bit of orange peel comes floating in. I got a lot of cloves in this, for me anyways. Then some toasted oak and some light tobacco on the ends. The finish is medium to long. I get honey, orange, and cinnamon with a little bit of oak on the finish. This one, the finish on this one's not really dry at all. It's more kind of sweet and just almost like a smoky finish for me. I'm giving this a 90. It's a good pour. It's really well rounded, and I think it's balanced almost perfectly.
Not quite up to Elmer standards. Sorry, Harlan.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not quite Elmer.
Excellent. All right, Jeremy.
Well, I would agree with a lot of that. I think the nose is definitely softer. There's that sweet aroma to it, but it doesn't have the same presence that the 91 did, by comparing them side by side. But it's definitely softer. I think that carries through into the palate and the finish. It's a little bit sweeter, a little bit smoother in that regard. I almost would be hard pressed to say these are the same mash bill. It doesn't feel like it's got the same amount of rye in it that the 91 did. Would be the way I would describe it for anyone who's likes a lower rye. This almost maybe feels like a lower rye to me.
That's disappointing, Harlan.
Or they aged it longer. If they aged it longer, that might have done it too. But I would say it's probably the mash bill itself is just a little bit different than it was back in 91, or when this was probably originally distilled, maybe 84, 85, as far as the 91 was concerned. But it's good. It's smooth. It certainly is. When you're comparing bourbons in that $50 to $65 price point of today, it's Blanton's. It's delicious. It's good. But it's not up to the same. I would probably give it in that 88 range. I'm not as big of a fan as I would be the older one.
All right.
You're getting down in the 87 territory, Jeremy.
Careful.
No, 88. I'm still above 87.
I will catch hell for that until the day I die. And that's okay.
It's good. Let's be honest, for a 93 proof, it drinks so well and so smooth whatever year you've got, they're good. But if you're going to compare them side by side, they're not equal.
Oh no, yeah.
Well, and when of course I'm going to defend myself, but when you compare it to the gold or the straight from the barrel, I mean, to me, it's night and day different. Oh, and that's, we get into that straight from the barrel. Oof. And I think both of you would probably agree it's just, I mean, that takes the cake when you compare it to the other two.
Now, are they chill filtering on the gold and the silver as well?
Gold and silver is chill filtered, but the straight from the barrel is not.
Right. I think that there's a lot of talk today about, what chill filtering does and how you lose some of that taste notes from that. So definitely something straight from the barrel is going to have that real flavor we're looking for. And
You're talking to the pastor of the non-chill filtered church.
Yes. Is that me or you?
That's you. That's
that's
Brother Cave.
Yes, that's me.
Well,
I think they should all be non-chill filtered and barrel proof, and people can water down to whatever they want. But that's just me.
Yeah. I would agree. All right. So as I mentioned, and you guys both mentioned too, this one is just totally different. It has a little bit more oak. It's still not overpowering though. It's more than what the other one had. This one is a lot more fruity. And I think both of you mentioned this. Yeah. I was getting, oddly enough, peaches on this one. I don't know if it's because I'm in Georgia and the peaches are starting to get ripe or what, but I got some peaches with some hints of citrus, some cinnamon, providing a little bit of spice there on the nose. But it's kept in check for me with a little bit of vanilla. And coming back to it on the nose, I was getting some roasted nuts. I don't know. I couldn't quite put my finger on the specific nut, but a little bit of nuttiness going on there. Again, and I think both of you guys mentioned this too, it's not quite as creamy, not quite as viscous as the other one was, but it still has a very good mouthfeel to it. Packs a lot more spice than what the other one did. The heat is balanced out for me pretty nicely with more of that same fruit that I was getting on the nose. I had a little bit of leather in here, mixed in with a good bit of oak again. Not too much. It's just right, I guess. It's nice. Doesn't quite overpower it. But I was getting some nice pecan flavors here on the palate. And going back to the nose, it's not pecans for me on the nose, but I was getting that on the palate. But anyway, the finish on this one was longer for me than what the previous was. It starts off with a good bit of cinnamon, and that gives way to a little bit of just a little pinch of tobacco and leather. Towards the very end, I was starting to get some sweeter caramel notes, and I'm going to agree with Jeremy. I get an 88 on this one.
So that's an 88.6.
Still good, but not quite the other one.
Yeah. Do you think on the nose the nuttiness that you're catching is maybe like almond?
It could be.
Maybe some light almond.
Yeah. Of course, I'm possibly being persuaded here by you saying that, but yeah, it might be. It might be.
All right. Well, so 86 and 91.
Nice.
Two stellar bourbons.
So we talked about the past. We've talked about the present. I'll throw a curveball at you.
Future.
Would we like to see Blanton's in the BTAC lineup?
Oh, I've talked about this for a couple shows. I think I hit on this, but for me, Blanton straight from the barrel should be in the BTAC lineup. And I'm actually glad it's not, because I can get it pretty much whenever I want.
Exactly where I was going with it.
So, like right now, I'm sitting on 6-7 bottles of it, and I'm happy. So, if they make it a BTAC, then I'm probably gonna have those 6 bottles and won't be able to get any more. So, I'm happy the way it is right now.
Here in Kentucky and here in Louisville, I visit places fairly often. I have never found a straight from the barrel bottle on the shelf.
Well, yeah, it's only in Europe. It's not sold in the States. That's why.
Well, there you go.
But you would think even at the distillery that they would sell it in the gift shop or something.
You would think so, but yeah, the only thing sold in the States is the regular 93 proof. Everything else, the silver, the gold, the black, the green, straight from the barrel, it's all overseas.
Have either of y'all had the green?
I've got one right here.
Do you?
Yep.
I haven't had it, but I've heard it's 80 proof, so I couldn't imagine it being any better than anything else. So I just haven't. I'm like at 80. That's just for me. That's Jim Beam or
Now, did they write?
Why even bother?
Getting cheated.
I know.
Do they write all the info on those bottles too, like they do with the other?
They do it the same.
Yep,
everything's the same.
Mm-hmm. So are they all Warehouse H as well?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yep, all Blanton's Warehouse H.
How big is Warehouse H? Is it huge?
It is massive.
And that's what I was saying. When I was talking about the history, how it's they said everything's center cut. And come on, from everything they're doing, it can't all be center cut. But they got to make it kind of flashy and have a story. So
maybe the 80 proof comes from the outer, closer to the walls.
Probably. So, but yeah, I mean, back to the BTAC. I mean, if they made this BTAC, it would be super hard to get in it then. And for me, Master Malts has it. I think that one show we did a couple weeks ago, I jumped on and they had like 6 straight from the barrels on.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're willing to spend money on shipping, the way I looked at it, I bought, I think like 8 bottles and shipping was like $200, but you factor in the price of the Blantons was close to 90, then factor in the 200, it came out to be about $120 a bottle. So you think $120 a bottle, that's a lot cheaper than a Stag on secondary, and you got the better mash bill. So
that's retail for a Stag. So that would be a nice retail for this, the BTAC too.
Yeah, and it's like we all said, it's the better mash bill.
Which is, I mean, I know we've talked about that on this show too. It's odd that mash bill number 2 has no BTAC. It's all mash bill 1, which is crazy.
Well, and the rise, but
yeah.
Which,
so not all mash bill 1.
not to jump it, but I would say of all those, the Thomas Handy is still probably the best underpriced, undervalued pour in the whole lineup.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Handy. I think it's great, because it's barrel proof, it's non-chill filtered, and it's your standard, SAS, just on steroids, pretty much. It's just
right.
I really enjoy the Handy, and I don't know. Speaking of straight from the barrel, I just poured some, so cheers.
Well, I don't have any other Blantons other than samples, and I'm holding on to them for future shows. So I pulled out other mash bill number 2. I pulled out some Elmer T. Lee and Hancock's Presidential Reserve. Yeah.
What do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what do you think of the Hancock?
It's different. It's more herbal to me. I mean, it's the same mash bill, but it has more herbal aromas and flavors to it than what the others do.
Yeah, I at first, the first bottle I had of it, I wasn't too sure, just because it was that 88.6 proof, and I was like, I don't know, but it's really grown on me over the years, and I make it a point to always have a bottle of each of the mash bill number 2. That's like one of my things. I always have to have a bottle. And I was getting like to the point where I was almost finished with one of my Hancocks. I didn't have another one. And luckily enough, I stumbled across one recently. Actually, I'm really starting to like it more and more.
You don't see it a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, you don't.
Right. Especially when you compare it to the other ones. Even ancient age getting love nowadays.
Yeah, here in Kentucky, you can find the Hancock Reserve sitting on the shelf. That one tends to sit. It's the other ones. The Blantons disappears pretty quick. Rock Hill Farms. There was a time when you could find them everywhere, and now if they show up, they're gone in minutes. But the Hancock is still, you can still find that on the shelves relatively easily.
You do not see it down here at any other. I don't know if it's just something they have with the distributor here, but the only place that I have ever seen it is at Total Wine. And that's it. I mean, any other store, they just don't have it.
Yeah, well, it's not even in the state of Ohio. I know that for sure. So
y'all get the short end of the stick of a lot of stuff.
Don't get me started on Ohio. Yeah, I mean, we don't get Rock Hill, we don't get Hancock's. Although I tell you what, the one thing we do get is the H&H. We get a lot of 10-star. I'm backstocked on 10-star for plenty forever. I got that's what I pick up, like when I go into the store and I can't find anything that I really need or want, and I'm like, well, let's just keep my buying status up. I'll grab a bottle of 10-star, $12, you know. And so, and it's a great drinker, you know. It's mashbill number 2, 90 proof. It's
makes decent cocktails with it if you wanted to and not feel bad about it.
No, yeah.
Yep.
So
yep. Has the Willett 3-year rye made it up to Ohio yet?
No Willets in Ohio either. So
okay.
I do have a bottle of 3-year rye, but you just got to travel for it. But I liked the 3-year. I think it came out pretty well this year.
Yeah. I'm hearing it's getting shipped around more.
Yeah, the nice thing about the ryes, they don't have to age too terribly long to hit the right points.
I haven't had any of the 3-year yet, I don't think. Or have I? Well, I may have a bottle over there. No, I have 2-year over there. That's what I have. I never got it in.
The 2 and 3 years, they're distillate. If you go past anything over 5 years, it's all sourced.
Yeah.
But the 2 and 3 years is their distillate. It's okay. It's got promise.
Yeah, I think give it a few more years and they're going to have something people are really going to want. But I know you said you picked up a bottle of the 80th anniversary, and you weren't not that you didn't like it, but you just they actually proofed that down, didn't they?
So it's actually a bottle and bond is the way they put it out at 100 proof.
Okay.
Yeah, they put it out at 100 proof.
Oh, so it's pretty much just like their old Bardstown, just with fancy packaging.
It's exactly like their old Bardstown.
Okay.
It's all about the marketing.
Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I was just what I was getting at is I picked up a bottle of, last time I was down there, they released like just a 5-year of their distillate. It was the Family Estate Reserve, the single barrels. And I picked up 2 bottles of that, and it's pretty good. For 5 years, I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it. I thought it was going to be too young. It's definitely young, but it's got, like you said, a lot of promise. I'm looking forward to what they're going to start putting out here in like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I did about 3 weeks ago. I picked up 2 9-year rye, which obviously is sourced. But the same day, I picked up 2 5-year rye, which is their distillate. Now, I haven't opened one yet. I'm really excited to try that to see how that's doing. I think the bourbon's going to be good in a few years. Their model has been, obviously, they've been sourcing for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And they're known for their 20-plus unicorns that will float around, the 20-year, 22-year, and 24-year unicorns. So they got some big shoes to fill with their own. I don't know how many more. I would suspect that the number of 20-plus year barrels you'll see them put out would probably be under 2 dozen at this point is probably what they have left. So I don't think they're going to have too many more of those flooding the market. I think more, to your point, it's going to be more about what is theirs and shifting people's palates to what they're producing versus what they've been sourcing from other places over the past 10 years or so. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. I think they've got a great name. If you haven't been down to the distillery, they've just reopened the new gift shop. They've remodeled that. They're adding quite a bit to it. There's going to be an event center and a bed and breakfast that should open up, I think, later this year. So it's going to be, it's a beautiful piece of property, and it's going to be a great place to visit. So I definitely think it's going to rival a lot of the other distilleries on the tour. So they're certainly doing something special. I just hope that the quality of the product continues to step up as things age. It'll be interesting to see how they transition the pot still. Because I think the pot still is still it's a good pour for the money. It's a great example. The bottle is iconic. It's beautiful. It's a pain in the butt to pour from, but it's still beautiful. But
giraffe neck.
Exactly. Well, if you get one of the 175s, it's how many people does it take to pour a drink?
It's a 2-person job.
Exactly.
Maybe 3, someone to hold a glass.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how they transition that to their own distillate, or if they ever do. There may be some value for them never to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if you had any insight. What are they going to do with Johnny Drum and
was it Pure Kentucky or
Pure Kentucky and very old whatever, I can't remember. Are they just going to keep sourcing?
Yeah, if you do the tours, or if you get a chance to talk to Drew, the goal I think is still to switch over and eventually phase that out and use their own distillate. But I think people's palates and demand will dictate ultimately what they do and how soon they do it.
That's going to be a big balancing act for them.
For me, Johnny Drum is spot on, and I love that pour. And to see that peanut brittle flavor go away would maybe crush my soul a little bit.
You have to stock up on those like you did the straight from the barrel.
I might have to.
We'll start a rumor like old Granddad 114, and you'll buy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I
don't know where they all went. They're in a crawl space in Columbus, Ohio.
I was gonna say I might just have to renovate my crawl space and make it bigger.
We're adding on.
Speaking of the crawl space, I actually did a nice little DIY project. When we cleaned out our crawl space to get it finished, I found like these really old vintage crates in there, and they're from some company in New York. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but I refinished them, and I actually just finished the final coat of the finishing oil that I was putting on it yesterday, and I put them back in the crawl space today and put bottles in them. And I realized on the ends of each crate it says poison. And I was like, oh, this is good. Does
it have the old skull and crossbones on it?
No skull and crossbones. But I'll take some pictures and post them. But it was funny. I was like, oh, I didn't realize it said poison on here. So, but yeah, they turned out pretty well, and they hold a lot of bourbon. So,
does your crawl space smell like my basement does right now? It smells like oil-based stain and polyurethane.
Yes, I was going to say stain and bourbon.
Yeah, I definitely had to close my office off tonight and last night, for that matter. Oh, actually, I had to take my notes upstairs from where I put a coat of stain on the bar. Like, there's no way I can nose anything down here right now.
Oh yeah, good point.
It smells like polyurethane.
Tastes
like polyurethane.
I thought I was going to be in trouble during this show because right before I came down here, I put on a lotioned up with some Dirty Knees Minnesota wood, and I was like, oh man, I messed up my nosing, so I've had to keep my hands under the table and kind of just sniff from the.
Well, that's where the creaminess was coming from.
I know. Oh, yeah, maybe.
You have silky smooth hands.
Yeah, but there was no hints of cedar in my notes, so.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So I think we're all right.
Well, good deal. This was a good show, Jeremy. It was fun having you on, buddy.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. I enjoyed it, guys. This was fun.
Oh yeah, thanks for the samples. This is a great show. Had a lot of fun.
So before we go, where can people find you at? Jeremy.
They can find me if they're on Instagram. They can follow me at my name, Jeremy Schell.
And that is SCHELL.
Correct.
And Mr. Cave.
Well, you can always find me at Bourbon Cave on Instagram and Twitter. Always find me here on the Firewater Review. I write high proof single barrel reviews for the Bourbon Zeppelin. Also write for the Sons of Winston Churchill. And if anyone's interested, check out Masters of Malts. You might be able to find some straight from the barrel on there. So,
and I'm not going to tell you the other website where you can find it because I want to keep that to myself.
Secrets. So,
excellent. Well, I am Seth P. Brown on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me, as well as Aaron, as he mentioned, on the Son of Winston Churchill blog. That is sowchurchill.blogspot.com, and you can find them on Instagram at Son of Winston Churchill. You can find all of our shows on abvnetwork.com. You can find them in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. You can find this show on the YouTubes. No video, only audio. I hope there's audio. But yeah, check that out too. We appreciate reviews. It means a ton to us. Go into iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher, provide feedback, and let us know what you think of the show. We would greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to it. That helps us tremendously as well. That's it. Jeremy, thanks again, buddy. We appreciate it. And we couldn't have done this show without your samples or you.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, can I throw just a couple more things out?
No, I'm kidding.
No,
yes,
okay.
Of course.
Yeah, we're done. All right, we're done. No, but for sure, check out Dirty Knee Soap. They're doing some great stuff. And Roundtable Woodworks, check out Chris. He's putting out some awesome products, and he just made us some Glencairn glasses, which could possibly show up on maybe a few. What do you contests maybe?
Yeah, Instagram contests.
Yeah, so we might be sending some glasses out for contests. So Make sure you keep up with us on Instagram, and that is at the Firewater Review. And don't know when, don't know where, and I might throw in some samples. So who knows what's going to happen?
Nice.
So,
speaking of samples, Jeremy, you forgot to plug that. Your Sunday giveaways.
Oh yes. If you're on Instagram and you like bourbon, which is probably why you may be listening.
We
to
hope
the show.
anyone listening to this likes bourbon. If not, we hope we can persuade you to like bourbon.
That's right. Well, we'll convince you with free samples. Now, every Sunday, and I started this, I guess it's been about 2 months ago. It was my mentor suggested it to me, and he said, you got so much, you should share some of this with people and find a way to do it. I thought, you know what, that's a good idea. And so I kind of combined two of my passions, one which is the marketing and the packaging of bourbon, and the second is the actual bourbon itself. So every Sunday, if you follow my Instagram feed, you'll see a snippet of a picture of it's either usually a portion of the label or the bottle or some type of packaging of that the bottle came in. And everybody that guesses, so usually I'll ask for who the distillery was, what the line extension, what brand it was, and if there was a line extension. And occasionally I'll even ask for what year it was, if it was something special that the year should be guessed too. But and I'll randomly pick everyone that guesses it correctly. Now, to be honest, usually there's a few people that get it right. I think there's other people that go out there and they just sort of copy what other people do, and I'm happy that they're doing that. I want to see people participate. But then I'll get everybody who guessed it correctly, and I'll randomly pick from that group, and I'll make sure that they get to try something. And it isn't always the sample that I put out there, but it's usually a pretty good sample. I've been sending out some Kentucky Owl to some people. I've sent out some 23-year Evan Williams. I've sent out got some Old Rip that went out before. I've been sending out quite a few 14 and 15-year Willets have gone out. So the samples are pretty darn good that people are getting.
Oh, yeah.
So I picked something out of my personal collection, and a little hint, I usually start stalking the person who wins to see if they posted any bourbon to find something they haven't had before. So that's usually what I try to figure out. So I try to make it personal to the person that wins, just to, again, give them something that they haven't had previously before. So, if you follow me there or you check me out on Sundays, it's something fun, and hopefully people can participate and get to experience bourbon like we do.
So now I'm going to go back through my feed, and anything really good that I have, I'm going to remove.
Just delete.
I've got some Evan Williams green level that I don't think I've ever seen on your feed before. So we'll get that too.
Ooh, I hear that stuff's great.
I have not had it. Well, excellent. Yeah, so definitely tune into that and keep up with us on @Firewater Review on Instagram for the Glencairn giveaways. And that's going to do it for this episode of Firewater Review. Till next time, cheers.
Ciao.
Later.
Firewater Review is part of the ABV network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.